Once opulent and well tended by priests, the shrine was abandoned for unknown reasons. Season after season, the harsh and unforgiving weather corroded its grandeur. Paths that welcomed weary travelers were now thick with vegetation, growing damp and unrestrained. The sculptures were a haven for moss and lichen, concealing a scratched and brittle stone. Well, if you haven't figured it out by now, today we're going to be looking at Yamaoka Estate's The Sanctum of Wrath in Surviving the Fog. Now, before we get into this and what's it all about, I just want to let you all know that we do stream throughout the week on twitch.tv/Barkless. Link in the description below. Come on by, hang out, just have a great time. If you have any questions about DBD, life, the universe, or anything, one of those is 42. The other, we'll answer with whatever we can, whether it's true or not. So, hope to see you there. Now, if this is your first time watching a Surviving the Fog Totem video, or if you're new to Dead by Daylight, I just want to let you know what we aim to do here. Every single map has a large number of possible totem spawns that can spawn throughout the map. Whenever a trial begins, the game will randomly select 5 of these totems and place them throughout the map. What we are going to do here is show you each and every possible totem spawn location and their tiles that they're in, so the next time you happen to be on this map, you'll know exactly where to look if you have to break a killer's hex ruin or if you need to bless a boon shadow step. We're also going to break this video down into several sections. That way it'll make it easier for you to find exactly which totem you're looking for. In the beginning, we're going to start with the nature totems. These are the totems that are going to be in like the rock and the tree areas. Following that is going to be the ruins. There are several ruins around this map. We're going to point those out to you. Following that is going to be the jungle gym totems. These jungle gyms are pretty well known throughout most of the maps, and we're going to section those off for you here. And then finally is going to be the main building totems. Now, the main buildings on a map are the structures in each map that never change, and you will always find them in the exact same spot. They may not always have a totem, but you'll know where to look. Now, without any further ado, let's get into today's video on Surviving the Fog, the totem spawns of Sanctum of Wrath. Alright, now the first totem we're going to look at is going to be in the nature section, and this is going to be on the hill. Now, the hill is very similar to many of the other hills that you've seen in several other maps. It's going to have 3 ways that you can't get up, 1 way that you can get up. If there's a hook, it's always going to be facing the path to lead up the hill. Sometimes there can be a chest up there, and sometimes there can be a totem. Well, your totem is going to be at the top of the hill as soon as you go up the path, and it's immediately going to be on your left, nestled in between some trees and rocks. So take a look and you might just find a totem up there. All right, this next tile we're going to look at, I am calling the log rock tile in the nature section. It's very noticeable because it has some fallen logs squished in between some of these rocks. You'll also notice some of them will have a light post or a gravestone / shrine. The totem here is going to be, if you're in the center of the tile facing inward, it's going to be up against one of the logs where instead of the rocks crushing the log, it's going to be flanking the log. It's going to be tucked away in a little corner. Now be careful because the killer can trap you in here, so keep an eye on your surroundings if you're breaking this one. Now the next one we're going to look at is the rock tile in the nature section. This is a bunch of rocks put together in a little cluster formation. The totem in this tile is going to be facing the interior of the tile, and it's going to be pushed up against some rocks that are the only ones that form kind of a V shape that is facing the interior of the tile. Now, some of the rocks will have this same kind of corner facing out towards the exterior of the tile, but look for the one that's facing the inside of the tile, and you might just find a totem. Now we move into the rock lamp tile. This one is most notable by the giant illuminated stone lamp that's kind of sitting there around the pile of rocks. This totem is very obvious if it's lit. If it's not lit, it can be easy to pass up because it's tucked away in a corner between one of the rocks and the large bamboo cluster that's there. So if you see the large bamboo cluster, look at the corner of the rock that meets it, and On the inside of the tile, you might just find yourself a totem. Now we're moving into our set of tiles known as the rock tree tiles. These tiles are, as the description says, full of rocks and trees. This first one is very similar to the rock tile where there's a large cluster of rocks. However, there is very noticeable a single tree. And the rocks are in the same kind of V formation. Now this totem is facing the outside of the tile, and it'll be in that little V formation that faces the outside next to the lonely tree. So you see the tree, look to the left or right, and you might just find a totem. All right, as we continue deeper into the rock tree tiles, this one now has two trees. One is a very thick tree, very big tree. The other one is a much thinner tree, and there's also some bamboo that's mixed in there with this large collection of rocks. This tile can be a little confusing. However, one of the rocks is in a large V kind of U shape that is facing the interior of the tile itself. And then the totem is going to be tucked in there toward the center of the tile. So don't look on the outside of this one. All right, now the next rock tree tile we're going to look at also has a single tree as well as a little bit of foliage, a big bush in the tile itself. It's very open. It's almost reminiscent of kind of the rune stones in the Red Forest. However, these are much shorter stones. There's really not much going on in this tile, so this can be an easy one to pass. The totem is going to be facing the interior of the tile up against one of the larger set of rocks that makes a V shape right next to where the bush actually is. So if you see the bush, look near the rock, you might find a totem. Now, as we get into the ruins section, there's actually not many ruins, but I figured I'd section them off separately since they're so vastly different than, say, the main structures or the nature section. Now, this first one is going to be the corner ruins. This is the one that's in the corners of the map. Large walled off structure with a lot of foliage and a rock in the center. So the totem here is actually going to be on the outer edge of the tile facing in towards the center. Look for the large cluster of foliage at a broken wall, and you're going to notice the totems there. It's going to be a little easier to spot if it's lit. If it's not lit, you're just going to have to look pretty hard. Now the next one is going to be the crossroads. Some may not consider these ruins, but I didn't know where else to put this. This is where it looks like two short wall jungle gyms are next to each other and kind of a plus or cross formation to make a crossroads type thing. You'll notice that one side will have a pallet, one side won't, and there will be a locker on one side with the pallet. The side that doesn't have the pallet usually has a tree sticking out of one section that also has kind of a J formation, and you're going to find your totem in that J facing the exterior of the tile itself. Now, the final totem in the ruin section is going to be the open gazebo. There are two gazebos. One is a closed off with an interior room, and the other one, the one we're looking at now, is the open one. It has 3 ways up with stairs and one jump off point as a window on the back end. Usually there's going to be a generator here. Sometimes there's chests. However, there can be a totem. If you look at the tile and you see the window jump off is straight ahead of you, on the left side is going to be your totem facing the stairs going down, and it's going to be tucked away between some debris. All right, now the first tile we're going to look at in the jungle gym section is going to be the 3-lane jungle gym. These are very noticeable because there are 3 very distinct lanes, one on each edge, and then one wider one in the center that will always have a locker. There will always be one pallet in one of the lanes, and then the opposite lane will have a window either on the inside of the tile or the outside of the tile. There'll always be a locker on the outside of the tile. Now, the totem is going to be on the central lane where the locker is, right up against it, facing the interior of the tile. This one's pretty easy to spot, so can't really miss. Now, the next one we're going to look at is going to be your standard jungle gym tile. This is the tile that's seen on almost every single map and started it all. This is the tile that's going to have a pallet on one side of the outer walls of the tile, and then diagonal from that towards the inside of the tile is going to be a window. There's going to be several openings to get to this tile. There's usually a generator in the center. There's always a locker on the outside. Now, unlike a lot of the other jungle gym tiles, this totem is actually on the outside of the tile where that locker is, and it's going to be in that little J section facing the exterior of the tile. Now, this next jungle gym I'm calling the long wall closed. I don't know if we've agreed on a name to it yet. However, it has a long wall with a window, and on the inside is a bunch of debris that makes a 3-lane that is closed off on the other side. And there's sometimes a generator here. There's always a locker, sometimes a chest. The totem is going to be on the interior of the tile, actually on the same wall as that long wall window. So if you're on the side with the pallet, go to the other side, and in the corner, if you're facing the window to the left, is going to be your totem. This one should be pretty easy to spot no matter who you are or if it's lit or not. Now, the next tile is going to be another one of the more standard jungle gym tiles. This is going to be the long wall, short wall, where there's going to be a pallet between a long wall and a short wall in one half of the tile. The other half is going to be sectioned off with like a longish TF wall, as well as kind of like a C/J wall, depending on which map it's on. This one is going to be more of a kind of a J or a G, and inside that little section is going to be your totem. This one should be pretty easy to spot, so keep an eye out. The next jungle gym we're going to look at is the most well-known, as it is one of the more powerful jungle gyms in the game. This is your standard long wall. It's most notable by one wall is very, very long, and in that wall is going to be a window. Kitty corner from that on the opposite side of the tile is going to be a pallet. Sometimes there is a generator in here or a chest, sometimes a hook. There's always locker. Now, much like the standard jungle gym tile, this totem is going to be on the outside in that long J section where the locker is. Unlike the other times you see this tile where it's actually on the inside. This one's on the outside. All right, now this tile we're going to look at is going to be known as the L wall, T wall jungle gym. Very noticeable because it is split up into two sections, split apart by a long wall that's connected to another long wall that has a window and that looks like a T. The other one is a long wall connected by a shorter wall that looks like an L. This totem, very different than any of the other tiles of you see L wall, T walls on different maps. This totem's on the interior on the L wall side instead of between the middle on the T wall side. So keep an eye out, shouldn't be hard to spot. All right, now this tile is kind of like an unknown jungle gym. I don't know what to call this. It's kind of like a closed off 3-lane or more closed off long wall. I'm not quite sure what to call this because there's a window in the middle. There's a pallet onto a long hallway. There's another long hallway. There's a large U section that cuts up the middle. There's a locker. Anyway, the totem on this one is going to be on the lane where the pallet is. Up in the corner next to the opening is going to be your totem. Keep an eye out. This one can be very confusing. Yeah. If you thought the unknown jungle gym was confusing, this is the closed unknown jungle gym. That's even more confusing. I don't think anyone really knows how to run this thing. You've seen this tile also on Ormond. I think that's first came out on Ormond, then they brought it over here to Sanctum of Wrath. There's junk on the outside. There's walls going all over the place. There's usually a generator on the inside. There's a window on the exterior. There's a pallet on the exterior, and it's all sorts of cluttered. This totem, however, isn't going to be too difficult to spot. Just go on the outside of the tile near that junk, and tucked away in the corner is going to be your totem. So if you find it, give a little perimeter walk, and you should just find a totem. All right, as we start the main building totems, we're actually on the penultimate totem, and this one we're going to look at is the shack. Everybody knows the shack. It is on almost every single map. It's most noticeable because it is a square structure that has a window on one wall, two openings, doorways on adjacent walls. One of those doorways has a pallet. Sometimes the basement is here. There is always going to be at least 2 lockers, sometimes a chest, but the totem is going to be tucked away in a box on the corner right next to the pallet. Not easy to miss, not hard to miss. All right, as we look into the final totem on the Sanctum of Wrath, I just want to thank everybody who stuck it out this long. I know this one was kind of a shorter video. There wasn't that many totems, oddly enough. I found that pretty surprising. So you are all wonderful, wonderful people, and I hope you brought something away from this, learned something, tell your friends, whatever. You all know what to do. If you want to see more like this, a like is surely appreciated, and make sure you hit that sub button so you know when we come out with more of these wonderful totem videos. So yeah, this one is pretty straightforward. On the Sanctum of Wrath, in the middle of the map is going to be the giant Sanctum itself. This is a large altar type shrine area that's always going to be in the middle of the map. It'll have 2 large staircases on either side. It'll have 1 smaller side staircase that goes up toward the center. Sometimes there's going to be the basement here. There's always a hookup here. So, there's always a generator, as this is the main generator for the map. There's going to be 2 lockers, I believe. And there should be a pallet up here at all times. 2 window vaults, several drop downs, and everything else. Now, the totem here is going to be actually at the top of the shrine, and there's 3 rings that go around it. In the middle ring, in one of the corners, is going to be your totem, tucked away in a corner of a wall. So thanks everybody for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it, and stay safe out there in the fog.